Welcome to the Super Six podcast. I'm your host, Kieran Stewart. I'm joined by Steve K. I'm joined by Jax. I'm joined by Kevin this week as well. How is everyone?
Yeah,
great, mate.
Do you know what? I'm gonna introduce it. I'm gonna introduce it from now on as this is the point where I say hello to everyone and no one responds. Just dead air. Dead air every week without how is everyone? Everyone just looks at me like
we don't know who to go first.
Just a big ramble of noise.
Oh, yeah, all good.
Yeah, we'll just do that from now.
Oh, Kevin De Bruyne.
No. I'm going to mute Kevin. He's too happy. I walked in today, and I was expecting the normal, hi, how is everyone? No, I got like a, hi, how you doing, Kieran? And I was like, oh, God. Kevin's on time this week.
Winning the semi-finals of the Champions League tonight.
Kevin's on time, yeah. He's shouting, he's happy. It can only mean one thing. Arsenal got absolutely spanked the other week. That is exactly what it is, and he wants to make sure he doesn't miss a beat.
No, that was a real spanking, to be fair. You seriously, and I'm sure you were lucky it wasn't 7.
Okay, thank you for that.
Have you got any check button or something there, Q? Have you got any check?
However, by Steve's maths, yeah, if the two moons align, yeah, at 12 o'clock tonight, and the cat barks at the dog, Arsenal will still be top of the league on goal difference.
Yeah.
But luckily enough for Kevin, Steve does not do the maths of the Premier League. What a weekend it has been. We've seen Tottenham continue to do what they did. They are the gift that keeps on giving. After bringing back the score to 3-3. Minutes later, they go and lose 4-3. Newcastle. I mean, what 6-1. Where was you, Jax, for that? Where was you for that? 6-1 pasting.
I was at my mate's house. We were laughing after a while. We were just laughing.
Yeah,
we couldn't believe it.
It was a joke. 20
minutes, that many goals going in. And Jacob Murphy as well. That's what made it even more funny. Because Jacob Murphy, he's not the most talented player. He grafts, but for him to score like a 25, 30-yard screamer, like in the midst of it all, was incredible. Yeah, so we're flying. Really good.
Absolutely flying. Well, let's start on that. Absolute demolition. He wasn't here last week, but what was your thoughts on that game? Newcastle, it seemed like there was a point in the season where they were kind of struggling to score goals. You were doing really well, not conceding any goals, but getting goals was a little bit hard. But all of a sudden, you're putting in 4s, 5s, 6s. What's been the difference?
I think the point in which we've had a bit of a slump would have been around like the League Cup final when we had Man United, and none of our players would have had a League Cup final before. And it's just a theory. I think it was just too much focus was on that the time. And yeah, you're right, Callum Wilson was off the mark after the World Cup. He just wasn't scoring, and now Isak sort of come into his own. He had that long-term injury, and he's sort of come back, and we're just flying again. And even without Almiron, we're doing really, really well. And for me, I'm not like, I know we might talk about Champions League places later, but it's not even like I'm not even going like, oh, we're not going to get it. I'm so confident we're going to get it. Like it's not, and I think it's more. Not to bring up loads of different things, but you look at like Spurs, Man United, and I just, and look how bad like Liverpool, Chelsea are doing this season. It's going to be much harder next season. It's going to be not to take away any credit from us or anything like that, but it's going to be so much harder next season when all these clubs are back. And maybe it's a little bit why Arsenal have done so well this season as well. I'm not having a dig or anything, but I'm saying there's been a lot of teams like just haven't been up to scratch this year, and I think that's going to change. So it's going to be much harder to get top 4 next season. But yeah, that was an incredible game, 6-1. One of the best, or maybe even the best, sort of 20 minutes of being a Newcastle fan in my life. Like in terms of like watching a game, you can't get better than that, really. Although I'm sure like Kevin's seen quite a few of them. I think like Man City have scored like 5 in that amount of time as well, to be fair. Like it has been done before kind of thing. But yeah, as a Newcastle fan, we had Steve Bruce 2 years ago. So we're just sort of getting used to it still.
Yeah, but then since then, you've gone on to beat Everton 4-1, gone on to and beat Southampton at home 3-1 the other day. So it's not something. It's something that seems to be in the water at the moment as well.
I thought the Everton one, I thought I was going to make, that'll be a draw. Like it's going to be under floodlights at Goodison Park. They're fighting for survival. There's no way that's going to be 2-2, 1-1. We might break a 1-0 win or something like that. But obviously, I think when you get the goal, isn't it? When you're facing side like battling relegation, you get that first goal, and their heads go, and then they just like give in basically, don't they? And that's what happened again. And obviously, Anthony Gordon got his return there as well. He's been underperforming a little bit for us still, but maybe there's a player in there in a couple of years.
Do you rate Gordon? There was a lot of people. It was like a split, really. Everton fans saying they were laughing at the amount that they got for him, and he's not actually that good. And Newcastle fans a bit dubious about him. What's your thoughts on him?
I think we spent £40 million on him, and I wonder if money could have been spent better elsewhere. I'm sure there is the factor of how, like the fact he can mold players and turn them into like brilliant players, even if they're like so-so. I'm really hope he becomes good. He hasn't done bad for us by any measure. He tries too hard to score. Like he's one of them. He just wants to get the ball in the back of net, like to just get off the mark. And he's not really playing conducive to the side at the moment. But we've got a long way to go with him. I hope he does. I'm kind of on the fence. I'm open to it. I wasn't blown away by the move. I wasn't like really excited, but I wasn't like, oh, it's going to be a flop. I don't think it'll be a flop, but because I think he's got that determination in him, and he's quite a unique player in the way he can win the ball quite high up. He can tackle really well, which is quite extraordinary for a winger. But he's obviously still very raw. So just got to see how it goes. I don't think he's going to be a world beater. But I think there's a solid Premier League player in there in a couple of years, something like that, yeah.
All right. Kevin, the other day when we were speaking, I'm not sure what the prediction was that you gave, but did you think it was going to be as easy as it was the other day against Arsenal?
No, listen, I think I said last week that I've always said all season that Arsenal have played some great football. So I thought that Wednesday was going to be a tough game. Arsenal had to come at City and give it a go. And actually, the thing that probably surprised me early doors was that Arsenal probably didn't quite give it as much a go as I thought they would do right at the start of the game. But listen, you have to say that Pep, just absolutely got it spot on again. I mean, he is just a tactical genius. I mean, the way that he worked out what Arsenal were going to do. When Arsenal came to players in the Cup earlier this season, they played that man-for-man game, and they played it really, really well. And I think City were lucky to get away with the result that night. And I think Pep just changed the whole formation of the team on Wednesday night. And from minute one, you could see that City were really up for this game, that tactically they were playing it different. Haaland wasn't really the main focus of the attack, that Kevin De Bruyne had a free role. He was absolutely unbelievable all night. And I was a little bit surprised at the way that Arsenal played, but in reality, I'm not sure that they could have done anything about it had they set up slightly differently. I think the City were just magnificent. De Bruyne, Haaland, and I'm not joking. I know I had a little bit of laugh. Half time could have been 4-0. Easily could have been 4-0. I thought the goalkeeper had a great game for Arsenal, and it could easily have finished 7-1 that game.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
That's not a negative about Arsenal, I don't think.
There is definitely a negative about Arsenal, but Man City were 10 out of 10. They were outstanding. When Arsenal didn't lay a glove on Man City,
no, they didn't.
If Arsenal were at their best, they would have been lucky to get anything out of that, because that is the best I've seen Man City play in a while. De Bruyne was outstanding, untouchable. Like the 2 goals he took in his stride.
I know.
I was pointing out the goalkeeper unfairly, as I am a goalkeeper, so I know how he feels. But the 2 goals he scored are so hard for goalkeepers to save because it doesn't allow you to get set. He doesn't open up. It's in the motion of the run and he just takes his shot off. The keeper doesn't get time to get set. So you can see why he's beating him, especially on the second one where he was unsighted. But yeah, that is the best I've seen, especially Kevin De Bruyne play in years.
I mean,
Steve,
the first one, to be honest, I was at the game, and from where I was sat, at the time, I thought to myself, I was a little bit surprised that goal had gone in. Mm-hmm. But when I saw it later on, when I watched the highlights 42 times, but when I saw it later on, the way that De Bruyne got that, I mean, he took it from outside the post and curled in.
Yeah.
The goalkeeper's not really got a chance. I thought the goalkeeper played really, really well for Arsenal that match. He's conceded 4, but he's probably Arsenal's man of the match, actually.
Yeah, which it says it all for Arsenal. Steve, Arsenal were... We'll start off with Arsenal. How bad were Arsenal? Let's start with that one.
It's very difficult to judge sort of how bad Arsenal are. It's probably the first time, sort of this season that, we've actually come onto a show or a pod or a post match and, looking and to sort of say, basically Arsenal were taught a lesson. It was as simple as that. Now Arsenal went there. I mean, all season we've been, up until then, I think we was proving to be the best team in the league. I think, watching that game the other night proved to me that Arsenal are not the best team in the league. And Arsenal have still got a long way to go. But privately, behind the scenes, and not obviously on shows, when I've been bigging up my team, I've said that. I've said we're not there. And the other night proved to be. I don't think we was that bad. I just think they were that good. And Arsenal just did not know how to deal with them. It literally was men against boys. And to say that after the way Arsenal played this season, and I still say up until the other night, we have been the best team. We've been top of the league for 247 days, and you should be. We still should be praising Arsenal for doing what they're for doing that, because to be top of the league for 247 days above this lot should prove to pundits and should prove to fans that have been put in the stand and using the word failure. What an incredible season Arsenal have had. And I know Jack said about we may struggle next year and we could, we might not, Champions League full could be a thing. I'm not too sure about that because we've been above, and that, in my eyes, for the whole season up until the other night, the best team on the planet, bar none. There is no team better in world football today than Manchester City, and we can still win tomorrow night and go above them. So let's have a think of that.
I meant more like Newcastle. I'm sure Arsenal will get top 4 still.
Oh, right. I'm sorry, Jack.
More for Newcastle. Like we were going to get
sorry,
top
mate.
4.
I misheard.
Yeah, no,
don't let him sidetrack, Jack. Don't let him sidetrack.
But look, Arsenal, I don't think we're that bad. I mean, we can go
genuinely.
Genuinely,
look, this is an Arsenal fan to Arsenal fan, Steve.
I can pick out mistakes.
You've watched that game.
They were so good, kids.
I know. Man City were good. They were brilliant.
They were unreal.
And I agree. They were unreal, and I think people have been very quick to dismiss how good Man City were the other day. But Arsenal's. If Arsenal had the form that they had halfway through the season, I don't think that game even looks like that. It may have. Forget about the score. They may have won the game still because they were outstanding. And when you talk about player for player, their squad is better than ours. Like it's not even close. We're talking about our Kevin De Bruyne to their Kevin De Bruyne. Ours is like 5 years off, and about 150 assists and about 75 goals. So the gulf in class and talent is is way off. But if we was to play at our best this season, we would not be coming out the way we were, like not even wanting to speak about it for days afterwards.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like the other day knocked the wind out of us, I'm worried at how we go up against Chelsea, because we've gone off the back of this before that with 4 dubious draws, should have got something out of every single one of them, and now we got spanked, and now we've got Chelsea, and that for me is a worry. And it doesn't even matter, we've got the worst manager that the Premier League's seen in 20 years in charge of Chelsea right now. It doesn't matter, because this is Chelsea against Arsenal. And it doesn't matter who's in charge of it. It's a London derby, and there's no let-offs for Arsenal. There is no let-offs for Arsenal for the rest of the season. Every single game is a tough one. This is probably one of our easiest ones, because Frank Lampard's the manager, and that's the only reason why. Like, that's what I say as Arsenal.
Yeah,
I
don't disagree with any of that. I don't disagree with any of that. Look. I don't want to go on and say if we had to leave a full fit. I don't want to go on and say, because that's not what I want to do. Yeah, I've seen some Arsenal fans do that, right? But we all know we all know that if players are not there, it does affect the team. It affects Man City. No, it affects it for everyone. If Haaland and De Bruyne wasn't there the other night, right, it's a totally different thing. But,
yeah, it is.
But because we should have squads to be able to cope, people like us don't mention that, right? Because we understand that you should just be able to get on with it, and you shouldn't be able to mention it. So I don't. But Holding the other night, right? He was probably our best defender, funny enough. I mean, he got a lot of stick. He got a lot of stick that I don't think he deserved. And, watching that game, he was bloody a lot better than Gabriel, I'm telling you.
Well, he's better than... Yeah, I'm just not even
I don't know what all these Arsenal fans, AFTV, talking out their arseholes, excuse my French, right? But Mr. Gabriel, we've praised all season, right, was looked like Holding 4 times worse. He was pathetic, right? So I don't know what happened with him, because he's been one of the best central defenders in. Xhaka, you could tell that he wasn't fit, and Holding, when he came up against Haaland, he just couldn't deal with him. I mean, what was he doing when he was up against Haaland when he turned him for that goal? I mean, that I would have put up a bit more. I would have just kicked him and just pushed him over, just let him turn him like nothing, and then he ran on and passed it to De Bruyne, and he went and scored the goal. Martin Odegaard, what was he doing? When he just passed it to Haaland, and he went
So I said, I started this by saying we were terrible. I said we were terrible, and you just pointed out 5 of our 11 players that were really bad. Like, this is what I mean.
I don't want to harp on too much about how bad we were, right? And mistakes that we did. Yeah, there was mistakes. Odegaard passed it to Haaland to get their goal. Ramsdale, I still think he should have had it. Right? That was like an hand. I still think he should have had it. That come from a long way out. I know you're a goalkeeper. That come from a long way out.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Right, it didn't come 6 yards.
Yeah.
Three goals of theirs I could pick out and say were just stupid, silly, ridiculous mistakes.
But on the flip side, forget them, take away them 3 goals, yeah? Where in Arsenal's performance and play the other day could we have got back? I
don't think we could have.
There was nothing.
I don't think we could have.
But there was nothing from us. There was nothing. Like, it was like, this is what I'm saying. I know Man City were outstanding, but Arsenal were like a sick puppy the other day. They had nothing. They were abject. They were weak. They were soft. There was no energy. There was no get up and go. It was almost as if they'd gone into this, saw Man City warm up, and went, "No, do you know what? Not today. Not today. Yeah. Do you know what? So should we just save it for the Chelsea game? Yeah, let's just save it for the Chelsea game." That's what it looked like.
Do you think Arteta went there? Like, I know he's quite similar to Pep in the way he plays and stuff, and Pep just like completely had him on toast, like tactically. But do you think there's an argument to say that maybe if Arsenal went in there with a bit more like, not entirely, but a bit more like Sam Allardyce tactics,
Pragmatism.
I said that. Did I say that Tuesday night? I said that
100%.
Tuesday.
Because you scored with a set piece, didn't you? Was it a set piece from a Boulding? And that's when, and other than that, you didn't threaten at all. I mean, if he had a couple of long shots, I think, but he didn't create any big chances from what I remember. And I just wonder if you went to the Etihad, you try and play football, and you get Pep, he's got it perfect, isn't he? That's
the early goal didn't help, Jack. The early goal, you know what early goals do.
But that's a pattern now.
They're a young side. It was an early goal. It was a terrible mistake from Holding. He should have. I would have not let Ireland turn me like that. Yeah. I would have just took him right out, right? And Holding just gone, go on, then just turn, and he just let him turn it. And then, as I said, I do feel, and then they scored. This was after 5 minutes, and then Joyner's had a pot shot, and for me, it come from way out, and Ramsdale should have saved it.
It's so low and it's so hard.
Yeah,
then for the TV angle, the way it is, it looks a lot like further out than it actually is. I don't know how to explain
it's still,
it. But
but if you're a goalkeeper like that, I mean, it literally was like from the post to where Ramsdale was sitting. There weren't a big gap he could have got it through. They weren't a great. He didn't come like flying across from the middle of his goal to try and reach it.
And it came in. Listen, I think it's a great goal. I think it's a great finish from De Bruyne. He's not even really looking at where the goalkeeper is. He knows where the posts are. He's hit it with the outside. He's curled it out.
Before that, though, Kev. It was before that. Before what happened. If you're an Arsenal fan, you're looking what happened before that. And that's a bad goal. That's a bad goal to concede, mate. That's a bad goal to concede.
But sometimes I think when your own team loses, you automatically look for the negatives in your own team.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
But I just think on Wednesday that City were absolutely on it right from minute one. You know, Pep had it set up perfectly. That free roll that De Bruyne had was fantastic, and I'm not sure. We had an Arsenal fan sat with us, actually, a nice guy, and before the game, he was reasonably optimistic, and at half time, he just wanted to get drunk, to be honest with you. You know,
don't blame him.
Alcohol.
Because it was because.
But I think it was about. I think Wednesday, and I said to it, he was very negative about Arsenal, and I said, well, I don't think you're giving City the credit that City deserves.
Exactly. Yeah.
They were just magnificent. I don't think whoever it was that we were playing that night would have been able to cope with us. I mean, I think we were just absolutely on it.
Kevin, when's the last time you've seen City play? Because I can't remember City playing that well in so long. Maybe even like 3 years.
Our form has built up over the course of the season, I think. But yeah, you're right. I think we've not absolutely really been on fire like that for a while. I think we played very, very well against Bayern Munich. I thought Bayern Munich actually, when they came to the Etihad, played really well. I think they were very good. I think they had some chances. So I think we played really well against Bayern at home as well, but they played better than Arsenal did. But the performances have just started to improve game on game. To be honest with you, I think, and I know that you dismissed that recently, Steve, and I understand why you've dismissed that. To be fair, but I think this is the squad. This is the squad. You know, this is a squad that have got experience of being in this position at this time of the season. They have a belief. They have a trust in each other. They've won the Premier League 4 out of the last 5 seasons.
No, people were saying they was going to win it because of it, Kev. That's rubbish.
Well, I think, to be fair,
you won it because you're a good side, not because you're experienced.
No, listen, to be fair, Arsenal are a very, very good football team. But they're a young football team. They do not have this experience that we have. And I agree with you when they looked at City in the warm-up and they looked at City and thought, we're not having it tonight. That is a little bit about balls in it up. That is a little bit about having the experience to say, you know what, we're going to have a go here tonight. And like I said before, I think the difference in all of the seasons that we've won the Premier League, a lot of it has been about putting winning or not losing the two most crucial games of the season. Against Liverpool, you know, we didn't lose at home. In most cases, we won at home. Against Arsenal, we've won away and at home this season. If Arsenal would have had those 6 points this season, where would you be?
Yep. And if we didn't, even if it wasn't 6 points, even if it was 2 points, it's a different conversation.
Absolutely.
Completely different conversation.
You could say that if we beat Southampton and West Ham.
I think it's
that's
different.
4 points. Still 4 points.
No, the difference
Still
when
the
we play
same.
each other. It's like no, it's not the same because,
It's not.
like for instance, the other night when we beat Arsenal 4-1, that's a negative goal difference of 6 for you.
Yeah.
Small margin.
Also, let's look at this. Let's go back into when people talk about that Arsenal had an 8-point lead.
It's not over yet, by the way.
Yeah, I know. And
you would have thought, you would think. If we win tomorrow, we go back to top of the league again.
We go back to when Arsenal had this 8-point lead in the start of February. Was it 9 point? Well, it was even games, 8 points ahead, and Arsenal still had Manchester City to play twice in that. Yeah. In that running, Arsenal still had to play Man City twice. So even if they had that 8-point lead with the same amount of games, Man City make those 6 points is 2 points. So and that is not a margin at all. It's no margin at all, especially against the Man City side who's been here many, many times now. The pressure.
If Arsenal can add to their squad next season, and I don't think they need to add to it a great deal, but if Arsenal can add to their squad next season and can challenge again, the difference, the experience, and they might still win it this season, but if they didn't win it this season, but the experience that they will have gained from this season I promise you, will be massive when it comes to next season.
Can I ask you a question? If Arsenal do go on to win the league, after seeing what Man City done to Arsenal, the other night, if City get a couple of draws and Arsenal go and win all the rest of their games, which is like you said, Kev, is seeable, yeah? Does that mean Arsenal are better than City?
Well,
because all we ever keep hearing is that the league don't lie. Or even as an Arsenal fan, I'm not blind.
No, the league doesn't lie. It's a 38-game season.
Arsenal are not better than Man City.
No.
I'm telling you now, Arsenal are not better than Man City.
But the team that deserves
that's not even an argument.
The team
but some people use it as one. That's what I'm saying.
No, you can say Arsenal have had a better season. Arsenal have been better in the Premier League than Man City have been this season. But if you're talking about for squad,
exactly.
No,
exactly. But the quote is the best team always win the league. Well, that's not true. It's not true. I've never said that.
Well, I think the best team.
I think you'll see that this season.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Man City should go on and win it now. But there's always that possibility, and it's
there is, and we'll just get onto that now. So with regards to people that will say it's over, it's done. I do believe a lot of those, the majority of those have never been in this situation before, not under the age of 25, and have never actually seen a tight league Arsenal go down to the wire. Like they're not from that generation. However, there are a few, and they do surprise me. But still, like you can't have the mentality that as soon as you feel like the league's over, as soon as you feel like a big game is done, that the league's over. Because if Arsenal players start having that mentality and Man City were to drop points and Arsenal weren't there to clean up and make it count, it would be far worse than it is now.
Even more frustrating. I agree with
you. More frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, me and Kevin was talking while the Man City and Fulham, and Kev, you was nervous, mate, wasn't you? You thought Fulham was going to come back and get something out of it. But it was really, bit sort of to and fro. Fulham could have easily got a point.
Do you expect to see more games like that throughout the end of the season in the Premier League, Kevin? I know a lot of fans will expect Man City to steamroll teams.
No, listen, it depends how bad the De Bruyne injury is, but listen, I think strangely, I thought the game at Fulham would be one of our most difficult games that we've got to play. We've got West Ham at home. We've got Leeds at home. You would imagine that we would pick 6 points up from that. You would imagine that we'd pick 6 points up from that.
Mm-hmm.
Arsenal have got Chelsea at home, which I think they would probably win that, but it is a London derby. So as we saw with the West Ham game, it is slightly different. But then they've got to go to Newcastle. That is going to be tough for them. It's going to be mentally tough. I mean, I think we were all shocked yesterday, weren't we, when we saw that Southampton were winning 1-0 at Newcastle. But I don't think anybody was surprised that Newcastle came back and won that game and won it comfortably in the end.
Yeah, it could be
so
more.
I think it's going to be a very, very tough game for Arsenal at Newcastle. If Arsenal can go to Newcastle and get a win, I think the fight is on. But I think if Arsenal go to Newcastle and draw or lose, I think that, I mean, we can already afford to have one bad result. The way that the games in hand work, we can already, because we've got our goal difference is also worth an extra point. So we've got one game that we can afford to have a slip up in. If Arsenal went to Newcastle and lost, then that means that we've got 2 games that we can have a slip up in. Would I expect us to slip up in 2 games between now and the end of the season? Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah, the only hope I've got. I mean, look, Brighton's away is going to be hard. I don't think Everton away is going to be easy for Man City. It's sandwiched right in between the Real Madrid games, and I'm not one for this. We're going to have a nice little break because it's Champions League. I think City will find that tough. Although, like I said last week, I really do hope they go on and win the treble. If Arsenal obviously don't win it, I really do, because they're an incredible football side. But yeah, look, I mean, they still could slip up, but I don't think Arsenal can afford to lose anymore. We see, like against Fulham, there was at times. I mean, what was it? A penalty, and I mean, that Alvarez, what a goal that was. I mean, absolutely, incredible goal. Yeah, next season will be starting in front of the one season wonder.
Is there anything that you've seen in the last 4 weeks that makes you feel like Arsenal are going to go on a run to the end of the season to put pressure on Man City?
No, not at the moment. Not at the moment. Tomorrow night will be a big. If we can go and go back to one of our performances that we've been playing all season, and win well against Chelsea, then possibly. But Man City have still got to drop points, and going by the way they played against us, you find that hard. If you're looking for positives from an Arsenal fan, you are looking at the away games. You're looking at certain matches where they could drop point. You're looking at their fixture schedule, and you're hoping that might play a part. But if you take all that away, it's definitely Man City to lose now.
If you lost at Newcastle, we could probably still afford to lose at Everton and Brighton and still win the league.
Mm-hmm. I think this is as time then Arsenal need to just fully focus on themselves and not even think about Man City. And then just for their own sanity, finish the end of the season with respectably and not out with a whimper, because we can have a great start to the season, have 2/3 of the season that looks really good, but when you finish off badly, it doesn't sit well for the summer. It's a dodgy summer. I've been there before. And,
Saliba out, Kears. Saliba's going to be a massive loss.
Well, how long is he still going to be out for?
I think I've got a funny feeling he could be out for the season. See, this is what I talk about moments in the Man City game. I don't want to go into excuses, because City, that's the best performance I've seen from a club side for a long while. But Ireland's not doing that to Saliba in the first 5 minutes.
Well,
Yeah, and we've had a problem.
It's like, but he did, and he did
Arsenal have had a
it.
problem in the recent weeks, in the last probably about 7 or 8 weeks, where they are conceding chances within minutes, like sometimes seconds of the kickoff. And there's something, the way they're set up, they need to change it. Whether it's they need to change it, it's a serious problem because Bournemouth exploited it, Leeds exploited it and nearly scored, if not for Ramsdale's from a save. Southampton exploited it, Man City exploited it. Like this there's a problem. Arsenal's concentration levels at the start of the game are way off. This is not new. This is something they need to sort out, and they need to sort out very quickly because.
I wonder if Zinchenko's got his City shirt on in the last few games. Because I don't know what he's been doing.
Did Saliba not play when we won 3-1 at the Emirates?
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah, but then that wasn't his fault. It was nothing that he did wrong.
I think he did.
Well, that goes back. You might as well pick out the old team.
I'll go back to the point you said earlier, with regards to Arsenal losing players and it making a difference. You look at Man City's squad, and that's where Arsenal need to be. Like Arsenal need to be in a position where they can afford to lose a player and it not fall off the cliff like we have done. We shouldn't be losing a 21-year-old defender and we are chasing shadows at the back now. Gabriel doesn't even know what he's doing. Like he looked like a someone you can hang your hat off for this season. He was the steady Eddie that Saliba needed next to him, so Saliba could be the flair sort of Rolls Royce that he is. And now he looks like a donkey. And he's been our best defender this season. But you put him next to someone who's not the same as Saliba, and he drops off. That can't happen. Like that's a massive problem. But I've got a manager that doesn't trust to play Kieran Tierney because of the way the shape that we have completely changes. But we're playing a defender there who's probably not in his best form, and he's still playing there because he can add a position in the middle. Then he needs to change that.
I think that's probably about the coach, though. To be fair, listen, we've not had a true left back all season. You know,
Nathan Ake's been quality, isn't he, for you?
And so is what's his name since he's come in as well.
Nathan Ake.
Akanji's come in, but Ake was playing brilliant so far this season.
Yeah, Ake's been brilliant, but he's not a left back. He's played left back for most of the season. So it's about the coach, I think. It's about the coach getting the best out of the players. Listen, these are footballers. There's almost an element of that with the right coach, they should be almost be able to play anywhere, really.
Yeah.
Seriously, I think that's what Pep's. He's played John Stones. You know, he's almost a midfield player. You know,
I do think Arteta's got that in him, but I am seeing him still learning as he's going along. He's still making substitutes where you won't see him make that substitute again because it hasn't worked. So he's still learning his game. He's still learning his trade. And I think as Arsenal fans, we've got to understand that as well. There's a lot of Arsenal fans that are very frustrated at the way we've fallen off this season. But I don't expect us to do that again if it was to be in this position next season.
I would agree. I agree.
As in the same as when we were sitting in fourth last season and we dropped down to fifth this season later on in the league. We won't do that again. And I've seen steady progression year on year. And I think we need to just be a bit more patient with that. Understand that we are ahead of schedule. Now we're in a race for the league. But next season, our expectation is to fight for the league again, not to win the league. And if we don't win it, like we lose our heads, it's to get Champions League, progress further in Europe, and fight for the league. And have this same situation we are in now, where we're talking about can we still win it? That's what I want as a fan. And I think as fans, Arsenal fans need to be more patient with that. All right. I'll get to the next one. Thank you, Kevin. Since Frank Lampard has come in to steady the ship at Chelsea, he's played 5 games, scored 1 goal, conceded 9, 5 defeats out of 5. His stats like that, we can guarantee he'll get maximum points against Arsenal on Tuesday. Steve, what are your thoughts on this game? Big game. Arsenal have won in the last 5. Surely they need a big 3 points here to get their their title challenge back on track?
Yeah, I mean it's a massive game. We need 3 points. We need to get back to the top of the league again, and put some pressure on Man City when West Ham go and play him on Wednesday night, and that's all we can do, and all we can do is hope. Will we go back to the way we were last season? I really don't know, because watching the last, I don't know. Watching the last, I mean, we was good against Liverpool. We was good. I mean, and again, I've often said against Southampton and West Ham, I thought we was really good in those games at points. We just made stupid mistakes at silly times, and that was the reason why we didn't get the wins. So if we go out in the Emirates and play the same sort of way we did against Liverpool, Southampton, and West Ham, I'm pretty sure we'll come away, and win. And we need to win. We just hope the players, have got it into their heads that it's not over, and that anything can happen. A couple of draws from City is more than possible. As I said, people of our age, have seen it many times before, when the juggernaut or the team that seemed to going to win the league, all of a sudden, with 5-6 games to go, drops off for some reason or other, whether it's an injury or just a loss of form. So we have to keep going. Listening to Arteta today in press conference, he sounded bullish. He sounded up for it. I actually listened to Frank Lampard's press conference. He actually talked like a lot of sense. Actually, I quite enjoyed his press conference today. He actually sounded like a manager.
There's talking the talk and there's walking the walk.
Yeah, there is. But he seemed to know what he wants from Chelsea Football Club. And that's not surprising, because he's a great player. He's just not a great manager, and he seems to find it too hard to put what he says into practice onto the football pitch. And I think that's Frank Lampard's problem. I think he talks a lot of sense, actually. I thought it was a very good press conference today from him, mainly because he praised Arsenal a lot. So, and I think that was mainly it. And he's right, because he said Chelsea have got to do what Arsenal have done. Not get rid of managers. Sort of keep them there for quite a while.
Oh yeah, of course he's saying that. Oh, that's what Arsenal have done. Keep young managers.
Yeah. We all would do it. Yeah, you can imagine that, can't you? But praying that he gets the job, praying, keep me here. But yeah, we got to get 3 points. It's not rocket science what we got to do. I've got a bit of worry because of recent fixtures, but yeah, I'm also looking forward to it, because if we can get back to winning ways, then who knows what can happen. It's not over yet.
Arsenal versus Chelsea got 2-2 written all over it, in my opinion, with Aubameyang scoring for the Blues. I don't even think he's got a squad number anymore. I don't even think he can physically play. He's not even got a squad number. That's how embarrassing that is. All right. So basically, what's this? Jack. Newcastle were ahead of schedule and have really pushed so far ahead this season. What would be the goal from a fan's point of view next season, from the start of the season, would you say?
That's a really good question, to be fair. I've said in there so many times. We've overachieved. We wanted top 8, good cup run. We're ahead of schedule by a couple of seasons, I'd say. I don't think we'll get Champions League. I'd been delighted if we got Europa League. So next season, we are where we are now. So I suppose you have to sort of build upon that platform and look to not regress. I think for me, it'd be good to have a little cup run again, get to a final or a semi-final, and then get in the Champions League again. I've mentioned, I think Liverpool are going to come back at it heavy and hard. They're showing signs of that at the moment. Chelsea looks like they might get Pochettino or someone who's not Frank Lampard in, and they're obviously going to have like some money over the summer and that, so they're going to refine their side. So they're going to come in strong again, I imagine. For me, it's just going to be solidify ourselves as a top 4 side, even if that means finishing 4th next season, and build from there and look to get some silverware at the same time would be quite good. It's been a while. It's been 50 or 60 years. 1955 was the last time we won a domestic trophy, which is a very long time ago. So that'll be it. And hopefully, get some good players through the door as well. Get that. get that sort of identity, keep going, and bring in some fresh blood. It's just been an enjoyable season, to be honest. I suppose, I know, like, if you're like Arsenal and stuff, like the size of Arsenal, like, you want to be pushing the title every season that you don't really is a little bit of a disappointment. I know you can kind of go like, oh, Man City and everything's there, and Liverpool really good recently, but Arsenal are Arsenal. But Newcastle, what we sort of like top 6 side, really, I'd say. And we've been very constrained by our former owner. I've never really experienced us have a really good season. Last good season we had, from my memory, was 02-03 season, or maybe 03-04 to an extent. Then Graham Souness came in 2004, August 2004, I think it was. And I haven't enjoyed supporting the club since. Been a few good bits, being promoted and stuff like that with Rafa Benitez, but that's it really. So I'm just, in terms of expectancy and stuff, I just quite like to see us continue with the attacking blueprint and maintain and have some really good Champions League nights as well. So maybe not so much like goals on paper, but just another season where there's an indication of progression, I suppose. Yeah.
Do you feel like the fans will allow you to be patient with those expectations, or do you think that it will jump straight away? Like, okay, we're now Champions League. We want to be making sure we stay in there, and we should be pushing in the Champions League, and we should be bringing in players that can now fight for the league. Do you worry that there's going to be that?
No football fans are patient, are they? There's hardly any, apart from maybe if you go to like League One, League Two or something. But Premier League football fans typically are not very patient, and so I suspect that they'd be wanting to get a league title and stuff like that. Maybe there wouldn't be. Maybe it's the younger generation as well, like people who are like 18, 20, or just starting sort of getting into the club now. I know it's only been a season, but for me, I just feel like it's just got to enjoy it, haven't you? And it's been a great season. We haven't won anything. Newcastle haven't won anything this season, but it's been enjoyable. But yeah, I'm sure there will be, some corners of fans wanting to push on. If we did finish, say, 3rd this season, 4th next season, got knocked out in the group stage of the Champions League, quarterfinals of the domestic trophy, like the FA Cup or something, there will be kicking off a bit. Well, maybe I would as well, to be fair. But I don't know. Yeah, just want to enjoy it a bit. But yeah, all fans are like that, aren't they? All fans are like, catastrophize after a single loss, and they want the world. I've seen Newcastle fans want a Sheemhem straight away and Declan Rice, otherwise it's going to be over and we're going to fail and all this. But yeah, that's what fans are like, I suppose.
I think I don't know what Jack thinks. I can ask me a question. I think Kevin's mentioned this before as well, but I really do think that Newcastle really do need to spend in the summer, and I think they need to spend quite big with players. I mean, they've brought in players like this. Let's say like Bruno Guimaraes or Guimaraes, however you pronounce it. That player of that sort of ilk, Alexander Isaac. I think you need to get maybe another 3 of them in the window. I think your owners do need to spend, and the reason why I do say that is because Newcastle have had a great season, and I think they're on the verge now of competing in the Champions League, stroke even pushing for the title now with every season. But what they do have to do, and what a lot of big sides have made the mistake of in the past, is not every window strengthening, quite big, to make sure that you compete with the levels of the Arsenals, the Man Cities, the Manchester Uniteds, Chelsea are going to get better. Chelsea, they'll probably end up spending. They're going to sell a load and spend. You're going to get Liverpool, they're going to spend. We don't know what Spurs is going to do. We probably can discount them. They're in a right mess. Yeah. But don't you think for Newcastle to even get into the Champions League places next year, because of all the other teams are going to be strengthening and pushing for that top 4, they're going to need to buy not like a budgety type player. They're going to have to really go big in the transfer market.
It makes me laugh because, we've got Dan Burn at left back, and I was like, no, we'll keep Dan Burn at left back for the next 2-3 years. And
no.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll have to absolutely. We're all going to have to fleshing out, I suppose, and maybe we've got to be a little bit like, I'm really sentimental. Like, I'm like, oh, he should go, and then Jacob Murphy scores 2 goals, and I'm like, oh, we'll keep Jacob Murphy then for another 4 years or whatever. But yeah, really, and like, I still think Paul Dammett's got a game in him, you know. But yeah, really, if you want to push on at that, you're going to have to like chop and change.
But joking aside, there has to be an element of you have
The
to
long
keep the
stars.
right ones. Like you've got to keep the right one. You
I
can't just wipe out the team. There's like even if there's a player that's not of the ability of the others, but him in the dressing room and his togetherness and off the pitch, he's making sure their team lights out and stuff like that. Like those are the important players in the squad as well that I think people dismiss.
People forget that a lot, and that's why people are like, "Why don't we sell like Matt? It's Matt Richards.
Yeah.
Like, Matt Richards is the guy, and he hasn't played, but people don't think about like the social dynamics. It's even on Football Manager, isn't it? You got the social dynamics.
Yeah,
you don't sell a player because he's like leader of the social.
Everyone sold that player in the team, and then the squad disgruntled the squad. You're like, do you know what? I was thinking about getting him back.
Yeah,
I'm going to get him back.
Yeah, you need to do that. I think like he's not playing, so he should go. So yeah.
No, I think Newcastle fans probably will be reasonably patient, but there's a couple of things. It doesn't seem a lot, but they're going to have 6 extra games in their season to play in the Champions League. The impact of that is massive. I promise you, it's massive on the squad. And I think the Newcastle fans, once they taste that Champions, I know they've had it before, to be fair. It's changed slightly since they were in it, but once they taste that Champions League night, the supporters will become greedy for that. They will want that again and again. The club will want that because the money that comes in is unbelievable. If City got to the Champions League final this year, the pot of money that they get from UEFA is somewhere in the region of £100 million.
Yeah, 110, I think it was. Yeah.
Crazy money. It's crazy money.
That is.
I think Newcastle do need to make some sense, but you know what they want to try and do, I think, a bit like we did. As a starting point, they need one marquee signing from somewhere.
Yeah.
Somebody from somewhere to come in to almost let other players follow. We did it with Yaya Toure. We signed Yaya Toure from Barcelona. From nowhere, we signed Yaya Toure. And the impact that he had on the club was massive. But the impact that he had in terms of other players believing that City had this project that they could buy into was also as important. And it's very difficult, I think. I think Newcastle have been really clever. They've been really patient. They're buying the players that they purchased since Eddie Howe went into the club have been really, really good. But I think, and they will play in the Champions League next season, clearly. Yeah. They almost now need to go 2 levels higher of a player than they've signed before. With
regards to, would you say that's like, so marquee signing, would you say that's someone like James Maddison? Or you think that would be much higher than that?
No, they need to sign somebody who's playing for a team that's already playing in the Champions League and signs for Newcastle. I think James Maddison, by the way, is a really good player. I think in Newcastle, I like him. I do like him a lot. I think he's a great character as well. Yeah. Positive impact on the game. On other players, you can see it. He loves to play football. So I think if they can sign James Maddison, by the way, I think that is a really good signing. The City were linked with him a few months ago. And he wouldn't get in our team, but I quite like the idea of signing him because there's nothing about him I don't like. I think he's got real positivity. He's very clever as a football. He's likable. But I think they need to sign somebody who's... I mean, if they sign, for instance, if they sign Calvin Phillips, and you might think, well, what does he add to our team? But he's leaving a team who potentially might win the treble this season. So if they signed a player like Calvin Phillips, who would be leaving a club that potentially can win everything, to go and sign for Newcastle, I'm not saying he's the player, but the point I'm making is he's a player who's giving up almost a guarantee of trophies to go and play for Newcastle.
Four players that were mentioned to me. I'll tell you the four players that were mentioned to me. You tell me if they fit into Newcastle. James Maddison's been mentioned. Mason Mount, Calvin Phillips, Kevin, and Conor Gallagher. Seems to me like Eddie
those
Howe's
three.
it seems like Eddie Howe's going for a bit of Premier League, proven players there.
Mason Mount.
Yeah. Of what Kevin's talking about, Mason Mount's the closest.
Conor Gallagher's not good enough for Newcastle, to be honest with you. He's not good enough for Newcastle. But what they almost need to do is they need to sign somebody from, I don't know, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich.
I agree, because it will unlock players that are in Newcastle's team to bring them up a level as well.
Yeah.
And players like Isaac would be one of them. Botman would probably be another one that would probably take it up another level. I completely agree. What position would you say Newcastle would need if they were going to the Champions League?
Probably we need another central midfielder, whether that's Guimaraes as a number 8 or a number 6. I think they want to play him as a number 6, so be after a number 8 of some sort.
At the moment, what about Tillemans for nothing? Tillemans for nothing, free transfer.
Well, I wouldn't say no to Tillemans, to be fair. I wouldn't say no to him at all. Someone like that, or I don't know, central midfield number 8, Kevin De Bruyne.
You know what I'm a little bit surprised at, really, that City and Liverpool have been linked with Kovacic. Why would Newcastle not want to sign him?
I think he's really good. I think
he's fantastic. That experience.
Yeah,
he's a very, very, very clever footballer. You know, I think he's almost lost at Chelsea. He almost looks a little bit like a rabbit in the headlights now at Chelsea.
Most of their squad doesn't it, at the moment?
He's a very good footballer.
Savic would be a good signing for Newcastle,
and that's what I think. That's what I think that Kevin's talking about. That level of player, they're international class. They're playing in Champions League. They would bring players that are currently in Newcastle up a level, and they would sort of set the tone for what standard they need to be.
The level of the players who are there. Listen, he's not my cup of tea. I don't think he's anywhere near the player that Rodri is. But if you look at Casemiro, who signed for United, he's done the business there at United. And not only is he done, he signed for United from Real Madrid. He'd won the Champions League 5 times with Real Madrid. And he's gone to United, and he's actually raised the level of the other players around him.
Yeah, there's not many of him about, though, is there?
Not a Rodri level for me, but that's the sort of signing I'm talking about. Even a player who's almost at the back end of his career, that's got all that experience. Somebody who might be
Busquets.
What about Kessie?
Kessie or Busquets, yeah. Kessie's saying, isn't he? Yeah, he wants to get his salary at Barcelona. I mean, I'd love Declan Rice would be my number 1 choice.
Stay away.
Get out of it.
Stay away.
I don't think he'd want to move away from London, though, would they?
That is the sort of player. That is the sort of player. But I think
Frankie de Jong. Frankie de Jong.
Frankie de Jong, yeah. I mean, that could be one as well. To be fair,
this is what's going to have to you're going to need when going to the Champions League. Steve, what do you think Arsenal will need when they're going to the Champions League? Because they're all but confirmed Champions League now. What do you think Arsenal need to bring in next season? Steve, has my mic gone off?
No, I can hear you.
Yeah, it did. Can you hear me now? Yeah, it did go off for a minute. It did go off for a minute. Yeah, I couldn't hear nothing. It might have been me. But,
what do Arsenal need to bring in next season for the Champions League?
I think Arsenal need. Well, I mean, I know they're looking at right back. I know they're looking at midfield, and I know they're looking at right-sided players this summer. And so, obviously Declan Rice and Moises Caicedo has been very well documented. This ain't going on with Moises Caicedo. They've already put a £70 million bid in for him in January. So they will be back in for him in the summer. I can tell you that now. So they definitely will be looking in that areas. They need someone to help Saka out on that right hand side. People keep saying Trossard can play there, but he's not a right-sided player. Reece Nelson's not a right-sided player, so someone on the Neto, Elise, stroke Musta Diaby type player would be handy if we can convince him in coming. I'd take Elise all day long. He's young, probably wouldn't cost that much money. But yeah, right back, right sided. A couple of players on the right. There's a centre back. Do we need someone to come in instead of Holding? If you'd say over the last few games, you would say yes. Whether they will get someone in, I'm not sure. Tommy Ashew can play there. If
you worry about his injuries?
Yeah, I do.
Especially with the games at a higher level in the Champions League next season.
Yeah. There's that. We've just bought Jacob Kior. He can play right sided as well as left. So we'll ask them, what type of player can they get? I've been hearing today about a couple of players, Mark Guéhi from Crystal Palace, but he's not going to come to Arsenal. For like they're asking £50 million. So it's ridiculous. I don't know. Yeah, I've been reporting today, so I don't know what people come up with these mad things really, but. Sometimes you don't even have to look really. You just know off your own football knowledge that you're not going to get an England squad player who's just made the England team and come and sit on Arsenal's bench. It's not rocket science. But we may need someone, although, like as you say, Keogh or Tommy Ashew could come in. So I can't see us Arsenal spending 50 millions there. So I've got a funny feeling we won't get a centre back if you ask me. So yeah, right back. Right-sided, up someone to look after Saka, and yeah, if we can get Rice and Casado in, that'd be a great window.
Yeah, it's all got to be big signing as well. No smaller signs or squad players. It sounds like. Kevin, many people have said that all the other teams this season have dropped off. Do you think that's unfair to the likes of Brighton, Newcastle, Arsenal, and how well do you think Man City have been so far this season in the Premier League from your point of view?
Listen, I don't think City have been too bad, to be fair to you. I think Arsenal have been fantastic, and that's what's kept us going. I don't think City have been too bad. I think performance-wise, it's probably been off a level, but results-wise, it's been all right. But yeah, I think that there is a lot of snobbery around in the Premier League, isn't there? When teams like Brighton and Brentford, who have dropped off a little bit recently, but Brighton have been absolutely fantastic. When you look at the football that they play, it's unbelievable. He should have beaten United in the FA Cup semi-final. I think they were the better team. I mean, they absolutely demolished Wolves at the weekend. They're a very, very good football team with a very, very good coach. And their concern probably would be that as a coach, he's done really, really well, that other clubs might come looking and knocking on the door. And Brighton are a fantastically run football club. And I think that they wouldn't turn down any really good offer for any of their members of staff, whether it's a player or a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And because they always seem to know what their next step is.
Yeah.
So if they're going to lose a coach, they probably already know who their next coach down the line would be. But there is a lot of snobbery in the Premier League. People look at the Premier League and think, oh, there's no way that Brighton can qualify for the Champions League. And actually, but for a few results here and there, they would really be challenging for a Champions League place. And the football they play is really good to watch. And there's almost been a little bit of the same with Newcastle. The people now are talking about Newcastle because they've got a little bit of money. But actually, it's not really. They've only got the same amount of money that all the other clubs in the top 4, 5, 6 have got. Arsenal, City, Liverpool, United. It's about how you spend that money. And what Newcastle have done is have spent the money really, really well. They got the right appointment into. I think Eddie Howe is a really good coach.
Yeah.
A really good coach. But what's his name from who went to Villa in the end? I can't remember his name.
Emery.
Emery.
Yeah, he's been excellent, isn't he?
Brilliant.
He'd committed. He'd already promised to go to Newcastle, hadn't he? He'd already said that he was going to go to Newcastle as a coach before Eddie Howe. I think he would have done just as good. If you look at the job that he's done at Villa, it's been fantastic. But people look at Newcastle and they sort of don't give them the respect they deserve because they've got money.
Yeah.
Well,
but they've not spent it.
Yeah, they've spent it really, really well.
Yeah.
All they've done is they've joined the party that everybody else is in. And listen, I don't think City are part of that snobbery group, but there are teams like United, Chelsea, Spurs, Arsenal to a certain extent, who don't like being challenged at the top of that tree because they feel that they have a right to be there. And when somebody new comes knocking on the door, they start looking around and saying, oh, well, City are only doing it because of oil money. And now Newcastle all of a sudden are only doing it because of oil money. I'm old enough, unfortunately, to remember Liverpool winning title after title after title when they were owned by the Littlewoods Pools people, the Moores family, who owned Littlewoods Pools. And they used to buy the best players in the world because they had more money than anybody else. Yeah, and all of a sudden, because the money is foreign money, it's almost not acceptable. So there is a lot of snobbery about, and it's great for me. I mean, we're already now part of that, but it's great for me that when I do see the likes of Newcastle and Brighton and other teams challenging, the big 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever it is, great for football.
I agree. I think as well the spending does help. Of course, spending money helps, but I think if you look at the biggest example being Chelsea, you can't just spend money. It doesn't equate to success at all. I think they broke the record for the most money spent in the summer. They certainly did for January. But it doesn't mean it's. I mean, look at Everton, how much they've spent. I think they're top 5 in 5 years.
And that's a team that's already successful as well in Chelsea. So to see that how they've dropped off so much on top of spending when they already had an adequate squad, it shows you how hard it is to do, especially when you're in Newcastle position where they've had to come where they're from. When you see clubs like QPR who think you could just bankroll the club, buy all players that have already been there, done it before, but are at the end of tail end of their careers, and they're now sitting in the Championship, still unable to come back into the Premier League after about 6 seasons. So having a blank check does not guarantee you any position in the league. It's exactly how you spend it. And on that note, that is all we have time for. Thank you for everyone who's joined us tonight. Oh, no. Kevin Parker, we were able to stifle him enough so that he didn't have Steve walking off. Jax Talbot, thank you for joining us tonight, Jax, and Steve K. Thank you for joining us, everyone. If you are regulars to the show, please hit that like and please hit that share button and hit the copy button. If you are new to the show, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and if you fancy, hit that share. You can follow these guys all on Twitter. Their ats are on the Twitter page right now. Make sure you join us next week at 8 o'clock, where I'm sure when I announce everyone's name, there will be a big sort of ramble of noise where everyone just says hello rather than radio silence for the 5th week in a row.
Does anyone know if Arsenal made the Champions League final tonight? Does anyone know?
Arsenal women's. You've got to add the W with that. You've got to add the W with that.
No, it's just Arsenal. It's just Arsenal.
I don't know. All right. Peace out, people. Stay safe.
See you, chaps. Take care.
Cheers.
Bye.